Hi guys, welcome to Animationscope.com. Today I am going to show you how to render and composite a breakfast scene in 3ds Max using Vray as a renderer. Later at the end of this tutorial, I am going to show you how to do some post-production to enhance your renders. So this is the scene on which we have to work. The modeling of this scene is done by my friend Anish Tiwari. He had downloaded a few models from various websites, like one of them is designconnected.com. You can see there are some really cool stuff which you can download for free also, and they have some premium models as well. So check this website and I'm sure that you will not get disappointed by the quality of the models which they have. Alright, so let's get started with the tutorial. So as you can see, what we have in our scene, it's a complete breakfast scene in which we have bread, we have fruits, eggs, a coffee or a tea cup, a glass of milk, and some objects like metal objects like these spoons, forks. Alright, so what I have done, I have already assigned and applied materials on the scene, and now I'm just going to show you how to light the scene and to render it. I have not applied some complex material like this fruit jam so that you can understand that how to create a material for it. So I have not yet assigned any material to this particular object. So let's get started. So I'm quickly going to render setup and assign Vray as a renderer. So you can click on render setup and let's assign the production renderer to Vray. Click OK. Now let's do some basic settings for Vray. Click on Vray and go to global switches and switch off the default lights. You can change the image sampler to adaptive DMC, and I'm changing the anti-aliasing filter to Michelle. I'm also going to switch on the environment skylight override, as we have already switched off the default light button, so we need to give some light to it. So I'm just adding this environment light and I'm just changing it to a little bit white in color, not in something blue which was the default thing. So I'm just changing it to something white. Click OK. I'm leaving these reflection and refractions options for now, and let's move down. I'm not changing the color mapping option, I'm just leaving it as it is for now, and I'm going to indirect illumination, and we need to add GI to our scene so that the light which we have used, the skylight, should bounce. So in order to get the bounce light effect, we need to switch on this indirect illumination. Click on, and I'm keeping the primary bounces as irradiance map, and on the secondary bounces I'm changing it to light cache. And now you can see the primary bounces, on primary bounces we are using irradiance map. So I need to change some of the settings of the irradiance map, because right now it's using the preset of high, which will take so much time to render. So I'm just changing it to low. So as we are just starting to light our scene, we need to keep the settings as low as possible for now, as we are making some test renders only. So I'm just keeping it as low. I'm also changing this SHP subdivisions to 30, let's say. I'm clicking on show calculation phase. Let's go down, and also I'm reducing the subdivisions of light cache to something 800 or 600. I think 800 is fine for now. Click on show calculation face. Alright, let's switch over to settings tab, and I'm just reducing the region to 48. Okay, so now we have done some basic settings, and let's do some test renders. So I am just quickly assigning a normal V-Ray material and a white V-Ray material, and I'm assigning this material to our whole scene. So if I select the scene and apply this material, so each and every material will get replaced with this material, the test material which we are making. So to get rid of this thing, I'm assigning it as a override materials. So, and I'm going to the common tab, on the V-Ray tab. I'm checking this override material. So let's apply this material on our override material slot. Choose instance and click on OK. And now I want to render this scene, but before that I need to set a camera angle. I have already applied a camera, so I'm just hitting C to see the camera, and let's hit F9, or you can hit the render button also. Right now it is rendering in the perspective. So I need to change it to camera 03, which is the camera which I have applied. So I'm hitting on render again, so that it will render the camera 3, which is the right camera. So what is happening right now, you can see as we are using a skylight to lighten our scene, you can see everything is very flat. There is no drama in this scene right now. We are having the same light effect here, we are having the same light effect here, we are having the same light effect here. So the thing is, everything is looking very flat for now. So we need to make some changes to our scene. How? Either we can put some lights, or what we can do is we can use an environment to our scene. So we can choose a HDRI file on our environment slot, and let's see how it will look. So to apply a V-Ray HDRI to the environment, what we need to do is we have to first make a material for HDRI. So, and we also have a tutorial on our website for V-Ray HDRI. You can also check this tutorial if you are finding some difficulty in assigning HDRI. So in this scene, I'm just hitting this material editor slot button, and I'm choosing a slot and I'm naming it as V-Ray HDRI. I'm clicking on this diffuse button and choosing V-Ray HDRI, and I'm browsing a HDRI file. So I have downloaded this kitchen_prop.hdr from internet, and you can also search other HDRI files. So in this scene, in this HDRI file, we are having a kind of kitchen environment, so it will suit our scene requirements as well. So I'm selecting this and click on open, and from the website where I have downloaded this file, I know that it's a spherical environment, so I'm checking on the spherical environment, and I'm going to my environment of my settings. As you can see right now, it is having a white color, so I am just dragging this material to the slot next to the multiplier, option, click instance, so that if I make some changes over here, it will get affected here also. Alright, so let's see the render which we have done previously. So I'm clicking on this render frame window to see, and I'm just cloning it so that we can see the changes. Now I'm hitting render button with the HDRI file. I'm pausing the video so that it will get rendered in the meantime. Alright, so we are back, and you can see now what is happening. You can see so much burn areas because we are using a white material, but that's not a problem. But the thing which I'm liking is we are having so much color variation, we are having so much lighting in our scene now. So you can see that in the previous one what was happening, we are having some flat color lighting, and in this we are having some variation in our scene. We are having different light over here, we are having different light over here. You can see some shadows also. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just changing the white color of our override material to something else, or I can choose a Vray edges texture material so that we can see some detail of our models. It's a kind of material which we can apply to the edges of our model. I'm just changing the edges color to something darker, and I'm hitting render again so that we can see some detailing of our scene. Again I'm pausing this render, sorry, not the render, the screen recording. Okay, now you can see it is coming little bit much better from the previous render, which is having white color as override material. And I want to also get rid of this black environment, so I'm going to rendering and clicking on environment. I'm changing this black color. I want to use the HDRI which I have applied on the environment, so I'm just dragging the HDRI simply on the slot, clicking on instance, and make sure that this use map button is on. I'm rendering it again. So now you can see we are having a background in our render, but it will hardly affect anything because however we are going to replace it with the image file in Photoshop. So now let's render the scene with the materials. So I'm switching off the override material option. I'm just clicking on this button and I'm rendering. So now the scene will render with the material which I have assigned already, the original materials, I mean to say. Render. So now the scene will take time to get rendered, so I'm pausing again my video and I'll get back to you very soon. Okay, so not so good, not so bad. We can see some of the objects are coming out very nicely, like these apples. I'm really liking the way they have rendered, and obviously we are having some noise, some blotchiness on these items, but obviously we will get rid of these by when we will change the material settings to high and our rendering settings also to something higher. So that's not a big problem. You can see some of the areas are just burning off, so that's not also something that we can't control. We can obviously reduce the intensity of HDR which we have used. So now I want to create the material for this jam which is spreaded on the bread. So let's quickly create one for this. Go to material editor and I'm going to create a new material. Let's rename it to jam. Select the object, or you can pick the material of this thing which is already predefined as jam. So right now it is of gray color, and I know jam, if you see how jam look like. So if I go to images and see this, so we are having some glossiness on it, some transparency, and they are of different color difference are there. I see, I'm really liking this thing, and we are going to achieve something like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's first quickly apply a red color to it, something darker. Obviously it will have some reflection also, so this much is fine for now. I'm not reducing the glossiness, I'm happy with it because it is highly reflective with glossiness, so I'm just keeping the reflection glossiness to 1, and going down to refraction, that we really need to change something like this. Okay, let's give a true white color and let's see how it is coming out. Let's render a region for it. Okay, so it will come out as a glass, because what we have done, we have changed the transparency from black to white, which means now it is 100% transparent, like a transparent glass. So we need to change some values. I'm reducing its reflection, and I'm also reducing a little bit of refraction. I mean, I'm reducing the transparency of this object. So now you can see we are getting a red color, the diffuse color of it, but actually we can give this red color by this fog color as well, because we need a tint of red in it. So I'm just slightly giving a red color tint, and I think the region is quite big. To save the time, I'm just okay, but we are still away from the one which we want to achieve. So we need to tweak the settings again, check on traditional reflections. We need to change the fog color. I want to make it really darker, and also I'm reducing the intensity, let's say 0.3. Render. Okay, also let's reduce this index of refraction value to something 1.3. Let's see how it will look. Okay, for now it's looking fine so far. Now the rest of the things like noise on these materials and other stuff, like some problem over here, in this area, we can achieve a better quality by changing the render setup. I'm going to render setup, and now I want to do some final setting for the render. So this time I'm going to my Indirect Illumination tab, and I'm changing this HSP subdivision to for something higher value like 70. I'm also changing the correlation samples to 25, going down, and I'm changing. Please make sure that it is also good that overlapping very good fast method, but I'm changing it to density based best method. To reduce the noise in our scene, I'm just changing this noise threshold to 0.001. I am increasing the global subdivision multiplier to 2. I'm just making it double, so now everything in our settings will multiply it by 2. And alright, you guys must be wondering that I have not used any of the Vray light or any other light in the scene. I have just used HDRI. That's the beauty of the HDRI, that sometimes we really don't need to kick some lights in our scene. So far everything looks good, and in the DMC sampler I'm just changing it to minimum subdivisions to 2 and maximum to 8. Alright, and let's hit the render. If you want to change the render size, you can change, it's up to you. And if you want to get rid of these burn areas, you can reduce the multiplier of your HDRI if you want. Also, let me tell you that if you are not happy with the reflective areas, like you are not happy with the reflection, you can obviously edit the HDRI by simply, if you have resetted all your material slots, you can just drag it again on any of the slots, and you can make changes, like if you want to reduce the multiplier, if you want to rotate the HDRI so that you can have a different kind of reflections with the same HDRI. So that's totally up to you, but right now I'm quite satisfied with this test render, and let's hit render. Okay, so we are done with our render, and you can see that the render has really came out nice. The only thing which I am still noticing, that there is still some noise in our chrome material. So let's see what we can do of it. Going to materials and selecting the chrome material. As you can see, the subdivision of this material is really low, so I'm changing it to something 30 and see what we are getting in 30. Okay, so now you can see the difference in both of these two. So I think 30 subdivision for our material is enough. So let's render this also. I'm just saving time by hitting the region render. Now let's re-render the areas which are having chrome. Okay, same for this knife and this spoon as well, we need to re-render it. Obviously, if you want, you can render the whole frame, but as it will again take so much time, so I am just rendering the regions. So I'm pausing the video for now and I'll back with everything done. Okay, so now we are finished up with our final render, and let's save this file. And I'm saving it in a PNG format because I don't want this background to be saved. I want this thing as transparent. So I'm saving it as first scene. Okay, so now let's open the file in Photoshop to do some post-processing. Okay, so now as you can see, we have done, we have saved the file in PNG, so we are not getting the background, the HDRI background, and we don't need it. And so now what we are going to do is, let's first see that how the white background will look like. Let's say if I fill it with black color so that we can see it properly. You can see there is a lot of white light over here, there's a white light over here, so we need some kind of image which is having the same kind of lighting in it. So I have downloaded one image from the internet that have some similar kind of lighting. So it's this, and I'm just putting it on my background. So as you can see, some light is coming from this direction and it's looking that it's falling on the teapot. And we really don't need to match the light only, but we also need to match the perspective also. So, and also the proportions. So I'm just moving a little further. I think it's fine over here. Move it a little up by using your arrow keys. You can move it and place it accordingly. If you want, you can scale it up also. Alright, so once you are happy with the proportions and the placement, let's do other stuff. So now the thing is, the background scale wise it is matching with our foreground, our render. So now I really want to add some kind of focus, some kind of depth of field to our scene. So I really want to focus this area. And as we already have this thing as a background, so we can easily apply a blur filter to it. So I'm going to, and what you can do is you can just hit Ctrl J to duplicate the background, and we are keeping it as a reserve copy of it. So I'm blurring this layer and I'm applying a filter of blur, a Gaussian blur. I think it's too high, so just reduce it so that it will match your requirements. I think this much is fine. Alright, and I'm also duplicating my foreground, my render, and I'm applying a filter of blur, Gaussian blur, but not this much, a little bit. And I'm simply using an eraser tool. Just increase the size of it. reduce the hardness. And just rub off the areas on which you want to focus. Alright, so if I zoom, you can see we are having blurry areas and the sharpened areas at the center where we really want to focus. Okay, so let's do some color correction, and I'm applying an adjustment layer of labels as I want to enhance the shadows and highlights. Double click on it, and I think the window is at the back. So now you can, I'm just giving it a little bit contrast, and I'm just giving some brightness to the midtones of the scene. Alright, so let's add a gradient map adjustment layer, and this black and white thing is also looking nice. And you can, basically I use this gradient map to give a slight tint of color. So right now it's taking from these background and foreground colors, and I'm giving it a something of warmer tone to it, so something like this yellowish orangish color. And I'm changing the layer mode to, let's say, multiply, and you can see a lot of warmness is there on our scene now after we have added this gradient map. I want to reduce the opacity because this is too much. I don't want this much warmth to the scene, so I'm reducing the opacity. So let's say 17. Okay, so now you can see our scene is looking much better, and we are having some nice depth of field effect also. So it's up to you if you want to add some more adjustment layer, you want to give it a cooler look if you want to, so you can just simply double click and you can change this map. Let's say if I can change it to cooler tone, and you can see now it's looking a little bit cooler. I can give it a green tint also. I want something warmer, so I'm changing it back to this a little bit orangish yellowish color. And let's get back to the layers tab, and I'm taking a new layer and I'm filling it with black color using the eraser. Actually I want to give a vignette effect. I'm erasing the center part, erasing the eraser size, and now you can see we are having some dark corners, but they are too dark, so I'm reducing the opacity of this layer. And now we are having the nice focus in the center of the scene. So that's all for now. I hope you guys find this tutorial useful. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.